Good morning. I'm glad you chose to join us this morning. This is Pastor Alan Hathaway from the Garrison Church of God. We'll be having service a little bit later this morning at 10:30, but we would like to invite you to come and be a part of that. Today is Memorial Sunday at our church, and we take time to remember those who have died in the faith. There are several things that are important about this week. Tomorrow is Memorial Day in our nation. It is a time to remember and appreciate those who have died defending our country. And so we want to take time today to recognize the importance of their sacrifice. These men and women have given their lives so that you and I can have freedom. Freedom to worship, freedom to speak our minds, freedom to live in security. And those are all wonderful things that we have as a result of their sacrifice on our behalf. So we take time to say thank you to their families for the tremendous sacrifice they have endured, and to also remember and appreciate those who have served our nation so faithfully. So men and women who are serving now and those who have served in the past, we salute you and thank you for your service. And for those who have lost loved ones in the line of serving our country, we appreciate you so much, and we understand your grief. Thank you for sharing your loved one with us. Jesus' crucifixion lasted for 6 hours. He was crucified sometime around 9 a.m. in the morning. At noon, the sky darkened. At 3 p.m., he died. Over those 6 hours, Jesus was harangued by the leaders of Jerusalem, by the Roman soldiers, and even by the criminals who had been crucified with him and shared in his same suffering. In their anger and frustration, they too added their sarcasm and insults to his misery and pain. But toward noon, one of those criminals had a change of heart. That change of heart would change his destiny forever. Jesus on the cross understood what he was doing. He was giving his life for all humanity, even for these two criminals, even though they did not appreciate it and did not seem to want his grace and his mercy. For the Jewish leaders who reviled him, he was giving his life for them. For the soldiers who gambled for his garments at the foot of the cross, he was giving his life for them. At some point, one of the criminals that was crucified with him suddenly understood the price that was being paid. And he has a remarkable interchange with Jesus at the close of Luke's gospel. He says to the other criminal or thief or insurrectionist, as they're called in the Bible, he says to him, "We deserve what we're getting because we have indeed done criminal activities. But this man has done nothing to warrant what is happening to him." And then he turns to Jesus and says one of the most profound statements in the New Testament. "Lord, remember me when you come into your kingdom." There is a desire within all of us to be remembered. Job in chapter 19 would cry out and say, God, oh, that my words, my name, my life were written in stone, engraved on stone, and that you would fill the engraving with lead that I might be remembered. Earlier, he would cry out to God, saying, O God, hide me in the grave, but remember me. Remember who I am. Remember who I was. Remember me. The Romans reserved crucifixion for the worst in their society. The slaves who had rebelled against the authority of the state or their masters, the revolutionaries who had murdered people in the process of revolutionary action or had raised armies against the Roman government, or bandits who had injured people or killed in the commission of their crimes. These people were crucified. It was a brutal way to die. It was designed to create as much humiliation and shame on the individual and their family as possible. No one would wish this for their friend, their loved one, their family member, and most of us would not even wish this on our worst enemy. It was a terrible way to die. And yet Jesus willingly chose this death for us. The criminals that hung beside him had not chosen that death except through their own willful arrogance and their own desire to hide their criminal activity under a cloak of political activism. It is a dangerous thing in our world to believe that our actions are good. David would cry out to God in Psalm 25 and say, God, remember me. But part of his asking of God to remember him was that God not remember some things in his life. These two criminals had done things in their lives that they would rather everyone forget. In fact, part of the reason why they joined in with the others who were reviling Jesus was probably a deflection of their own actions, their own failures, an attempt to escape the shame and the humiliation they felt at that particular moment. But there is always the need in all of us for grace, for God's mercy, for his forgiveness, and for his kindness. This thief would reach beyond who he was at the moment. He would reach out for grace and understood he deserved none of it. And yet, in hope, he asked Christ for grace. All of us come to some extent to the cross. We come to that moment in our life when we realize that there are a lot of things we would rather forget, and we would rather other people forget, and more importantly, we would rather God forget. But there is also a tremendous desire in us be remembered. Job would say, "Remember me, O God, and call me by name again. Draw me again into your presence. Bring upon me the flesh that will have decayed. Once again, let me stand alive. Once again, let me see with my own eyes. Once again, let me be in your presence." For the Christian, this is our hope, that God will remember us. I hope that is your hope today. I hope you have come to the grace of Christ. And just like that thief on the cross who came to an understanding of his need, I hope you have come to an understanding of your need for his grace. And I hope you have cried out to him as that thief did and said, "Remember me. Remember me." Jesus would say to this man, "I will. This day you will be with me in paradise." For the Christian, we believe that when we have died, we go to be in the very presence of Christ, and that one day we will stand as Job hoped and prayed in our own flesh in the very presence of God to glorify him and to know one another forever. That is a great promise. I hope you have that in your heart today. God's blessings. Thanks for listening. We'll hopefully see you at church.